With the NFL season around the corner, predictions for the Buccaneers are all over the place. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into today's episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. Credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here with you 5 days a week along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I have to admit that I was wrong, and we have some interesting injury updates all coming up in a little bit. Starting this one off with some predictions, not by me, I gave you those last week, but by a vast array of NFL media, and an article from CBS Sports' Jeff Kerr inspired this. So Kerr went through and he gave his ceiling and his floor for every NFL team this year. When it came to the Bucs, he cast a really wide net over their potential outcomes. For the ceiling, he said the Bucs can finish 11-6 and win the NFC South for an unprecedented fifth consecutive time. Kerr wrote, quote, "The best team in the NFC South is the Buccaneers, and they have been as they have been throughout this decade. They didn't make many changes this offseason, but the Buccaneers didn't have to. Emeka Egbuka might have been the steal of the first round, and Bucky Irving is destined to be a star at running back. Baker Mayfield has a case as a top 10 quarterback in football, and the offense should be a top 5 scoring unit. This team is the class of the NFC South," end quote. As for their floor, he said 8-9 in missing the playoffs for the first time since 2019. Kerr explained, quote, "A bad year for the Buccaneers will be due to injuries, which have already happened this season. Tristan Wirfs, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan are already out to start the year, and the depth will be tested. The defense is a solid unit, but have their questions regarding linebacker depth. The offensive line will also have to survive without Wirfs, especially with the brutal first half schedule. The Buccaneers will rack up wins thanks to the NFC South," end quote. I don't necessarily disagree with this take. I feel like we've talked about it a lot on this show, and I've talked about it on quite a few other shows, that the Bucs' ability to contend for a championship, which we all believe they have the talent to do, hinges on their ability to stay healthy. I'll get to some of the injury updates a little bit later, but as Kerr points out, they're already dealing with injuries to key players. Outside of Godwin, Wirfs, and McMillan, you still have the uncertainty as to whether or not Otten, Morrison, or Isian will be able to suit up week 1. So with that in consideration, any more injuries to key players could absolutely derail this team's ability to win games and create a hill that's just too steep for them to overcome. They've overcome long losing streaks over the last 2 seasons by finishing on absolute fire, but you bury yourself too much too soon, and you're just going to flat out run out of time before you can dig yourself out of that hole. So I don't take any issue with what Kerr says here. He didn't point to this, this player or that player regressing or falling off. He didn't point to the coordinator change or the coaching staff. He simply said injuries, which is exactly where I think the Bucs could find themselves in trouble this season. But I think you can say that about just about any NFL team. As for some other predictions, John Breach, also of CBS Sports, has the Bucs going 10-7 and winning the NFC South, going on to beat the Washington Commanders in the wild card round, and then losing to the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round. His Super Bowl prediction is the 49ers winning on their home field over the Baltimore Ravens. Seth Walder of ESPN ran a simulation of the season and has the Bucs finishing 9-8, behind the 10-7 Falcons, but still making the playoffs. After that is where it gets interesting. Walder said, quote, "The division was out of reach once the Falcons beat the Saints, but the Buccaneers kept their playoff hopes alive with a 20-15 victory over the Panthers. They got the help they needed with the 49ers losing to the Seahawks 24-17 and the Bears falling to the Lions 38-9. That allowed Tampa Bay to grab the last wildcard spot with a 9-8 record. The Bucs entered the playoffs with low expectations, but shocked number 2 seeded Detroit 27-24 in the wild card round, keyed by a Yaya Diaby sack and a deflection off a Jared Goff pass that was intercepted. Tampa Bay then surprised the top-seeded Rams 27-22 in the divisional round, thanks to a clinical Mayfield performance. Todd Bowles' defense got the job done in the NFC Championship game, confusing J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings and winning 28-13. Emeka Egbuka and Bucky Irving had big days, and the Bucs were Super Bowl bound where they met the Bills," end quote. Walder went on to say that the Bills would win that elusive Super Bowl over the Bucs 55-23. Now, I don't really love that score, and we're going to see if Buffalo has the ability to beat the Bucs by 28 points when they meet up in the regular season. But would you all take a disappointing 9-8 regular season finish to sneak into the playoffs as the 7th seed just to see the Bucs go on a run all the way to the Super Bowl? I'd probably sign up for that. Again, I would prefer a different result in the Super Bowl, but if you tell me that they sneak in as a 7th seed because they got help in the last week of the season and then made it to the Super Bowl, that's just too much fun. All right, and then finally, Corey Curtis of Yahoo Sports gave his predictions where he had the Bucs winning the NFC South and entering the playoffs as the 4th seed. He did not give end of season records. He doesn't detail who wins in what matchups in the postseason, but he has the NFC Championship as the Rams at Green Bay. They are the 3 and the 2 seeds. And then the Chiefs at the Ravens, which were the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC in that championship game before the Ravens would go on to beat the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. All in all, the Bucs are widely considered to be the go-to NFC South champion, but at the very least, they're being picked as playoff contenders. I think that's what every one of you expects. That's what I expect. That's what the majority of hosts on this podcast network expect. So now it's a matter of seeing the Bucs put it together on the field and improving over what we saw last season. You made the right changes. You improved the majority of the weaknesses on this team. Now it's about players, of the rookie draft class like Egbuka, Parrish, and Morrison, coming in and fulfilling those roles and fulfilling those expectations. It's about guys like Reddick and Servassier Dennis stepping up and playing huge roles. It's about Charlie Heck taking care of business for a few games while Tristan Wirfs is out, and then some repeat or even improved performances from guys like Bucky Irving and Baker Mayfield. All that together is going to make the Bucs a very difficult team to get past and a very interesting one to watch. Speaking of interesting, we got some injury updates. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. You want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. You want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew? No problem. Join a public league, the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can find the link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, just scan the QR code. And thank you all so much for helping us out. The Bucs had a bonus practice on Monday, and there were some injury updates to discuss. For starters, Benjamin Morrison, Christian Izien, and Josh Hayes were all out on Monday. Morrison is still dealing with that hamstring, and while Bowles was optimistic that he'd be ready week 1, I don't think we see him dress until at least week 2. Again, that's my estimation. That is not what anybody is saying. With that hamstring, he has been out now for a month. So he's going to need that ramp up time to get himself going. If he misses that much time and then tries to get himself ready when practices start on Wednesday before going out on the field and trying to play on Sunday, you're asking for trouble at that point in time. You're literally daring that hamstring to stay in one piece and not get re-injured. That's going to be a hard pass from me. After practice, Bowles was asked about Morrison's status for this week, and he said, quote, "It is still up for grabs right now. There's a possibility he could come back until Wednesday. We'll see. He's been moving better," end quote. As for Izien, Bowles has mentioned a few times that it's a pain management thing for him as he deals with an oblique injury. Not sure how much Izien can push it or test it, so that's something to watch for moving forward into this week. As for the good news, Cade Otton, Tyke Smith, and Sean Tucker all returned to practice on Monday. Otton's status is still up in the air for Sunday, but seeing as how he suffered a second leg injury and missed time last week, I would say that this is a big step in the right direction if the Bucs have any hopes of him playing week 1, and they're certainly going to need him, not just for his pass catching with the absence of Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan, but for his blocking. Otton, as I have mentioned a few times throughout the offseason, was the team's highest graded pass blocker last season at the tight end position by PFF. With Wirfs out and Heck taking his place against the new Falcons pass rush, there are certainly some concerns heading into this game. Bowles was asked about that new Falcons pass rush, including James Pierce and Jalen Walker, and he said, quote, "Other than youth, they bring a lot of speed. Pierce was a heck of a pass rusher in college. He could really run. I got to see Walker a few times myself. He was one of my favorite players in the draft coming out, and he's really multifaceted. He can do a lot of things for them outside, inside. He plays with a high motor. He's a high character guy, provides great leadership. So between the two of them, they've really infused themselves with two young, good pass rushers," end quote. This is a problem when you're missing the best left tackle in the NFL. Grizz is going to have to get creative when it comes to these blocking schemes and play calls to not leave Baker out to dry. I mentioned it last week. I'll probably mention it a few more times this week since we are previewing a game for this weekend. But if I'm the Bucs, I'm going to go with a lot of quick passes to get the ball into the hands of my playmakers as fast as possible to not only try to protect Baker, but also try to let these guys make plays with their legs. I'm talking about quick passes to, of course, Mike and Egbuka, but now you're going to see Bucky be a little bit bigger part of the passing game. You're going to see Rashad out there on the field, and he's going to get his opportunities to catch passes. We know how dangerous he can be in the passing game, but now you're also talking about Sterling Shepard, who was at his best on those quick short routes last season with Evans and Godwin out. You're talking about Tez, who can be electric with the ball in his hands. That's your screen guy. Godwin is typically the screen guy now. That's going to go to Tez, and it's going to go to Egbuka. But if you can get Tez the ball, that quickly on those wide receiver screens and then let him create space, let him move those legs and juke some guys out. Now you're talking about these big chunk plays. Same thing if it's a slant or if it's a quick out. He's so fast, and I don't mean fast as in like straight line speed. I mean fast as in being able to see the field, analyze what he sees in front of him, and make the right moves to make guys miss. So that's what I expect to see against the Falcons when you're missing Tristan Wirfs. I would always have someone, Otten, Kieft, Durham, even Rashad, staying in on that left side to help pick up these blitzes and buy Baker another second to get rid of the ball. And I know that means you're sacrificing a potential weapon in the pass game, but I have confidence in Evans and Egbuka and Tez and Shep to win their matchups. Atlanta's secondary is good. They're not great. They're not elite. The only elite guy in that secondary is Jesse Bates. So I'm going to trust my guys to get open against their guys, and I am fine with keeping an extra player back to prevent Baker from being absolutely flattened by these edge rushers that the Falcons have collected in the offseason. There are a couple of quick notes on the Falcons injury situation. They are missing their starting right tackle, Caleb McGarry. I am sure that Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons is going to talk about that on the Crossover Thursday episode. But the Falcons are also missing their backup swing tackle, Storm Norton. So they're going to be in even worse shape on the right side as the Bucs are on the left side with Tristan Wirfs out. Then you have to take into account the fact that Michael Penix Jr. is a left-handed quarterback. So their right tackle is the one protecting the blind side. That's where Hassan Reddick is going to be coming from more often than not. That's huge for the Bucs defense if they can take advantage of it. Then I just finished talking about rookie edge rusher Jalen Walker. He's dealing with an injury, and Falcons head coach Raheem Morris said that Walker is quote unquote on track to play, but it is not a certainty as of yet. Another thing that you need to make sure you're keeping an eye on as the week progresses. And then wide receiver Darnell Mooney has missed a few weeks with a groin injury. Now, Morris called him day-to-day, but groin injuries take a while to fully heal, and that could certainly cause him to either miss week one or be extremely limited in his availability in week one. And at that point, you're risking re-aggravation or re-injury. So I'm not sure that the Falcons are going to want to do that and then miss their number 2 receiver for another month. If that's the case, if Mooney misses week one, then outside of Drake London and I guess Kyle Pitts, but I'm looking more at receivers. Outside of London, you have Ray McLeod, Casey Washington, Kaderil Hodge, and Jamal Agnew as your receiving options. That sounds to me like there will be a lot of double coverage on London while you force someone else to step up and try to make a play in the passing game. We know Bijan is a threat at all times. Kyle Pitts had 2 really good games against the Buccaneers last year, but he was covered by KJ Britt. So that's going to change a little bit. He may not have quite the explosive plays that he had last year when these two teams faced off. But those are the things to really keep an eye on. We'll continue talking about it as the week progresses. But yeah, if the Falcons are down Darnell Mooney, that's on top of their right tackle. That's a big advantage for the Buccaneers defense. All right. I was wrong. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is where I always go to place my parlays, my prop bets, my game bets for just about every sport, and it's definitely going to add a little spice to your NFL Sunday. Right now, the Buccaneers are 2.5-point road favorites against the Atlanta Falcons with an over-under of 47.5. Rookie wide receiver Emeka Egbuka is sitting at an over-under of 57.5 receiving yards in his NFL debut. Spoiler alert, take the over on that. I promise you'll thank me on Monday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, Locked On Bucs fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Wrapping things up here on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. And yep, I was wrong. I can admit it. And I'm not just talking about picking Notre Dame to beat Miami or Texas to beat Ohio State. I said last week that I felt there was only about a 10% chance that Emeka Egbuka changed his number from 9 to 2 ahead of this season after the Bucs released Kyle Trask. I figured at this point, just roll with it. You can change your number next year. Rashad White did the same thing. He had I think he was 29 his rookie year, switched to 1 in his sophomore season. Nope. It was announced Saturday morning that Egbuka was one of many jersey number changes and that he will be wearing his number 2 that he rocked while at Ohio State. Other jersey number changes were Jalen McMillan from 15 to his college number of 11, Teddy Bridgewater from 16 to 10, Tez Johnson from 83 to 15, Josh Williams from 37 to 18, which is a phenomenal change. Thank you, Josh Williams, for doing that. And punter Riley Dixon from 92 to 9. And I'm not going to lie, that one kind of disappointed me because I thought if receivers and running backs can have single-digit numbers, it's kind of fun to have a punter wearing a number in the 90s. Just saying, thought it would be kind of funny. But I had one insider text me and say, to be fair, you told everyone to hold off on buying an Egbuka jersey earlier in the offseason just in case this switch happened, which is in fact something that I did, but I pivoted from that as we got deeper into the offseason and we got into training camp and we got through the preseason. And I mean, the release of Kyle Trask kind of caught me off guard anyway. But with all of that said, and even though Emeka Egbuka turned me into a liar, the Buccaneers made a very, very cool announcement. And if you are one of the people that has an Egbuka number 9 jersey and you haven't heard about this yet, then you are in luck. The Bucs released a statement saying, quote, fans that purchased officially licensed authentic Egbuka jerseys are asked to contact their original point of purchase for exchange details. The team store at Raymond James Stadium and Fanatics will exchange authentic number 9 jerseys for number 2 jerseys at no additional cost. End quote. That's just awesome. Okay, when the franchise that you are a fan of or that you cover goes out and does something like this, it makes you proud to be associated with that franchise. Kudos to the Bucs and Fanatics for teaming up to do this. I texted some of the insiders that were concerned that this might, or that were concerned about a potential jersey switch, that this might fall under the category of Fanatics Jersey Assurance Program. And if you're not familiar with that, basically, if you buy a player's jersey and then that player leaves the team or gets traded within 1 year of you making that purchase, then you can exchange it for a different jersey. I wasn't 100% sure if this was going to apply, but I'm really glad that the Bucs and Fanatics are doing this for Bucs fans because those jerseys aren't cheap. You know, I don't know if some of you buy them all the time or if some of you haven't looked at buying any in, 5 or so years, but those jerseys are not cheap. So when you spend your hard-earned money on something that is now obsolete and you have the opportunity to exchange it, and get the updated one, then that's a really cool move. And it's why fans can be, pretty happy with the team that they cheer for. Now, some of you might decide that you're going to keep the number 9 jersey as a potential collector's item and just buy a number 2. And I say, you know what? More power to you. I think that's really cool. If I was talking to another one of the insiders the other day and said, if Egbuka goes on to have a Mike Evans level, Hall of Fame type career, and you have this pristine framed Egbuka jersey with the number 9 that he never even wore in a regular season game, he only wore it in his rookie preseason, that could be worth some serious money. Of course, collector's items are only worth what other people are willing to pay for them, but 15 years from now, that's going to be a pretty unique item because there's not going to be a whole lot of those left. So again, really, really cool. I'm a little disappointed Egbuka changes his number, but I get it. You wanted number 2. It became available. You're going to go ahead and scoop that up. One last quick note, Bruce Arians, obviously the former Buccaneers head coach and the winner of Super Bowl 55, is going to have a regular spot on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday during the NFL season. So I would imagine that there's going to be some Buccaneers talk during that segment each and every week. But if you're a fan of the McAfee show, if you watch it or listen to it, or you're one of those people that are like, yeah, I throw it on every once in a while just to have in the background while I'm, doing laundry or cleaning up the house or, getting ready for, the kids to get home from school or whatever. Make sure you tune in on Tuesdays because you'll get to hear from BA every single week. And I can't imagine that there's going to be too many times throughout the NFL season where they have Bruce Arians on and he doesn't talk about the Buccaneers. That is going to do it for this one. A slight change in schedule because of some scheduling conflicts. Evan will not be on Wednesday's show this week. Looks like he will be coming on the Friday episode. So we will have that to look forward to, but we will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, please check out everything going on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @Yarcho_Bucs. You can follow on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Bucs at both of those places. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. If you want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider, it's real easy. Like this episode on YouTube, leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.